Anyway, no, continuing from Bong's topic, we go into the Valley of Shock, okay? The Valley of Shock, especially for people who don't have first-hand experience on violence. We don't know how we will react. We can only train you guys. We can go to the firing range, shoot. But in the end, when an actual occurrence happens, we don't know how each and every individual will react. It all depends on that person, okay? And I can't say that you're going to react this way or you're going to react that way. We can't until that. Especially people who never had an experience, a close call with violence, okay? The ability to come out of this valley will be influenced by your mental state. Why do I call it Valley of Shock? Because once an incident occurs, it's like a valley. It keeps on going down. For example, you're sitting on a Jeep, somebody pokes a knife, this is a holdup. Give me your cell phone, okay? You freeze, especially if you don't have a background or you don't have an experience, you might freeze, okay? And sometimes, unfortunately, we read in the newspapers, there's this a female or a student got shot or got stabbed because she didn't want to give her cell phone. But the story behind it is actually, she froze. She wanted to give her cell phone, but she couldn't give it. And the robber misinterprets it as not cooperating. So what does he do? He stabs and grabs it and leaves. But the truth is, she wanted to, but she just froze. That's her reaction to the violence, okay? So it's a case to case. And it's like the cat or the deer, when it crosses the street and it sees a headlight of the car, what does it do? It just stares at it until it gets run over, right? So same thing. If we are not prepared, then we could go into shock, okay? That's why it's best to always play what I say. I always play the what if mind games whenever I ride a public utility, public conveyance, whether I'm in the mall, anywhere public. It's best to have that in mind. So just in case something happens, we can have a plan to do something. Because it's hard to start thinking of a plan when it's already happening, okay? If a shooting occurs, you don't know where to run, you don't know where to hide. But prior to that, if you sat in, just like our speakers earlier, which I appreciated, is when they stood up here, they advised us of the exits. So I didn't have to advise you anymore of the exits because that is proper protocol. Before you start anything, you should identify your egress positions. So just in case, while we're doing this lecture, something happens, we know where to run. We know how to get out, okay?
Yeah, rendering the room safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, correct. Okay? The more time you don't act, the more chances of you not being able to recover from the Valley of Shock. Because it's like a valley, as I said, it's going down. Okay? Having a plan will help you recover within the soonest possible time. Okay? So, we go to this. If this happens to you while you're driving a car, would you have the presence of mind to even put it in reverse and reverse out? Or just wait and see and let God decide for you? Okay? Denial syndrome, deny the state you are in. Characteristics, disbelief, okay? Freezing, no action. Regression to a childlike state. I've seen big guys cry in the middle of a firefight. You know, it happens because even if they're trained, if they haven't been in a firefight, it could happen. Okay? And that's how some people react. Sometimes they even freeze. Okay? I've been training police officers before in a vehicle counter ambush, and our technique before was the old traditional wherein we try to shoot in between the legs, which is not politically correct right now because they say it's unsafe. But during the time when we were doing it, even if the cops knew that we wouldn't hit them, they would freeze and they'll just bring out their guns and not aim and shoot. Okay, can you imagine what more if it's in a real life scenario? Okay, so it all depends on that person. It's not because they're trained, especially if they're not exposed. It will only come out once an incident occurs, okay? The best way to prevent this is in a yellow state of awareness. What's a yellow state of awareness, okay? It's being aware of changing events and conditions around your immediate environment. So, in the early 80s, there was this Air Force colonel called Jeff Cooper, who put up this great shooting academy gun sight later on. Anyway, he came up with what we call the Cooper's color codes. It's an awareness spectrum composed of 5 colors: white, yellow, orange, red, and black. Okay? So white is, an example of condition white is you're reading the newspaper out in the street, you're walking, you didn't notice you've already crossed 3 corners, you were almost run down by a truck, almost bumped by a tricycle, almost hit by a crane, and you didn't know anything about it because you were so focused on listening, on reading. It's also similar to a kid with the earphones and an MP3 walking around. He doesn't know squat because he's walking around, his world is in the MP3, okay? So what happens if somebody attempts to rob you, puts an arm around you and sticks a knife? You'll freeze. You will not know what to do, okay? So try to avoid, every time we step out of the house, every time we step out of the office, avoid being in condition white. What we want to do is to be on that second level of awareness. We call it condition yellow. What is condition yellow? Condition yellow is similar to driving a car. While you're driving a car, you can know there's a red car behind you, there's a black van beside you, there's this motorcycle trying to inch his way through the left side, through the gutter. You're all aware of that. That's how awareness is. It's not being paranoid, it's just being aware, okay? So you know everything around you, because if you know everything around you, persons who will try to approach you to do harm, you would notice immediately, even in the mall. If you observe, when the next time you go to the mall, if you're not doing anything, waiting for your wife or waiting for your husband, try to observe the people. You will be able to pick out who are not aware, who are minding their own thing, not knowing what's happening around them. And you don't want to be that kind of person, okay? Then we go up to the next step, which is condition orange. Condition orange is you're walking down a narrow alley. At the end of the alley, you see a bunch of teenagers sniffing solvent. So you know it's trouble, but you don't have any other choice but to go that way. So you've identified a potential threat. While you're walking, you're on that heightened awareness, which is color orange. And at that point, you're already playing your what-if mind games. You see a bottle of soft drink down. You're thinking, if he starts, or these guys come to me, I can pick it up, hit them, or throw it to them so I can run away, okay? So all of this is happening while you're approaching the threat, okay? You've identified the potential threat, and your level of awareness is heightened, okay, at the next level, okay? Then we go to the fourth color, it's color red. Color red is, what happens is when you pass, you say, "Hey Joe, give me your cell phone or I'll stab you." Okay, so what you were thinking of is actually happening already. So on the color red is sometimes what we call the fight or flight reflex. In animals, you either fight or you run away. Unfortunately, with the humans, we've got another F. We've got the fight, the flight. What's the other F? Which I mentioned earlier. Freeze. Sometimes because it's involuntary, we just freeze. Okay? So that happens too. So on condition red, it's either you get the bottle, you hit him, or you see a trash can, you put it down and you run away. So it's a judgment call. Like I said, the guy said, we cannot tell you when to escape or when not to escape. It's a judgment call. And when you're there, self-preservation will kick in. So you will decide, will I fight this guy or fight this group of kids, or do I run away? Okay? Then we go to the last level, which is color black. Black is what we call systems overload. Okay? That is when you're in the white condition, somebody puts his arm around you and puts a knife in you, and you go from white to black, you freeze. You don't know what to do. Okay? Either you start crying, you freeze, or sometimes you even faint. Okay? So that's condition black. So those are the 5 colors of the awareness spectrum. What I would recommend, every time you step out of the house, you step out of your office, you're on that condition yellow. Don't think about the fight you had with your wife the night before, or the time you scold your kid because he failed in the exam. Clear your mind of it when you get out until you get to the safety bounds of your office. Then you can start thinking of it again. As long as you get out, keep your mind clean, be aware, okay? Any questions so far? Okay. Think sitaw. What's sitaw? Actually, sitaw is the Philippine vegetable, string beans, okay? I just got that as a acronym, actually not an acronym, but a short shortened term, okay, for situational awareness. It's the key to survival, okay? As long as you're situationally aware, then you're okay, okay? Because the moment something happens and you can't react, that means you're not situationally aware, okay? So it could be going even in the church, okay? What happens, you're in the church, you think everything's okay, then there's an active shooter that happens, then you're caught off guard because you are not situational aware. So every time you go to a certain place, plan out. Think of the worst case scenario, like here. Are you prepared if suddenly there's a fire and smoke starts coming in? What do we do? Okay? So you have to be situationally aware of the environment and know what to do. Okay? Being aware can be as simple as this. Yuck. Okay?
Sorry for the still taking
that
the
almost happened
breakfast.
to me when we were protecting Anwar Ibrahim because in Malaysia because it was a right-hand drive and I wasn't aware of that and I was supposed to cross the street and I was looking the other way. It's a good thing he wasn't behind me and he pulled my collar back and I forgot. So that was a lessons learned when I was there. Okay. Okay, here. Okay, this is a test of awareness. The next video. You will see two basketball teams, one white and one black, okay? All I want you to do is count the number of times the white team passes the ball, okay? Watch it carefully because they pass it so fast, okay? So just concentrate on the white team and count the number of times the ball is passed.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
How many?
The answer is 13.
Who said 13? Okay, now the next question.
Did you see the moonwalking bear?
Those who counted 13, did you see the moonwalking bear? Watch again, watch the background. Did you?
There. Can you
Did you see the
that?
moonwalking bear?
In the middle.
In the middle? Did you see him? Who saw him? Those who counted. Because those who didn't count, I'm sure was looking at the background. Okay?
Yeah, because we directed you to count only what the white teams pass.
What do I want to show here? What I'm showing is under stress, you tunnel vision, you look at the threat. And that's the same thing. Because the security officers here might be carrying firearms, you're down out in the street, you see an old lady being robbed, you want to be the hero and you try to approach, you just see the basketball team. And that's the symbol for that hold-upper. But you don't see the moonwalking bear who's gonna stab you in the back or shoot you in the back as you approach. Okay? So never, because you're gonna focus on the threat, this is what happens. And this is what happens in real life. The people who didn't see the moonwalking bear, that's what's gonna happen because you're gonna focus on the threat. Okay? So you have to be careful. That's why you have to be aware. And that's why when we do trainings also in firearms, when we ask them to shoot, after shooting, I ask them to scan from left to right so you break the tunnel vision. You intentionally break the tunnel vision so you can see the other threats possibly beside. Because if not, you'll only see that guy who has the gun engaging you. Okay? So just the same, okay? It's just a lesson, so at least you'd realize that it can fool you and you can focus on something that won't let you see the other things. And always remember, that moonwalking bear in this video is the moonwalking bear that will kill you.
And remember, a lot of criminal groups now doesn't operate only one or two. They always operate in group. Yeah. Because the criminals will always have three reasons. They mustn't be identified. They must not be the modus operandi must not be identified. So definitely there will be cohorts and members of other to support that.
And what I always tell my students and even the police, the Filipinos are the most, how do you say, smart-ass guys because they won't come in one or two. They come in 5 or 10. Say 10? How about if you're going to hold up a lowly lady and you've got 10 people, and how much jewelry will that be split around? No, you're just looking at the one girl. If they can do 20 old ladies in one day, they can all share the loot together. Okay? So for them, it's a matter of not getting caught, not getting identified, and there are a lot. And the people who act as lookouts are the most violent ones because they're willing to take you out in a blink of an eye. Okay, so you have to be careful. Okay, now we go into survival mindset. Because actually, what Bong and I failed to say is this is just a segment of our whole day course called the Street Smart series, which we've been running for Artemis Defense down at AIM for 2 years now. And it's kind of temporarily stopped, but we were running this, and this is the staple program, and this is just a segment of it, which is the mind setting. And since we are just limited within an hour, I told Richard, I want you guys to leave the room bringing something with you, okay? So the moonwalking bear is one of that, okay? Then we'll go into this. In a crisis or an emergency, if you allow your brain to search for a solution, it will find one. I'll go to another small story. Years ago, there was a guy working in this small building. It was a 3-story building. And the situation of the building is the staircase was in the middle of the building. Okay? It was just 3-story. The guy was working on a corner location on the 3rd floor. And he decided to go to work on a Saturday, and nobody was going to work. So he went to the room. Unfortunately, his office didn't have any windows. So it was just a bare room without any windows. While he was working in the morning, he started smelling smoke. What he didn't know was there was a fire that was starting at the ground floor. So by the time he realized he was smelling smoke, he decided to investigate and go out. And when he opened the door, since the staircase was situated that way, it became like a chimney. There was a chimney effect. All the smoke coursed its way through that, and it was going up. And when he opened, he got scared, so he closed. Then he tried to use his cell phone. It was dead. So what did he do? He decided to just wait and put his faith on another person or another group, which is the firemen. Unfortunately, again, fortunately, the firemen came in enough time to kill the fire below. It didn't spread, but not quick enough to stop the smoke from getting into the room. So the guy was dead when they arrived. The arson investigators came in. There were 2 guys. It's like me and Bong. When we came in, they came in. One of the investigators said, hey, the guy's dead, but he could have survived. Why? How will he survive? There's a trash can. Then the partner was baffled. What trash can? What do you see in a trash can?
Trash.
A trash. Hold on. What do you see in the trash? Trash bag. All you have to do is get the trash bag, throw out the trash, convert it so it's not smelly. Then, what do you have now? A bag full of?
Fresh air.
And you can use that air for 3 stories. You can go down and escape. But he didn't want to do it. So, it could have been used. But again, his mind was set to wait and see what happens. That was his faith. Okay? So what I'm saying is there are techniques, sometimes it's just right in front of our noses and we don't know. Okay? So if there is a problem, there is always a solution to it. Just don't panic. Okay? Do not get overwhelmed by fear. If you can, change the emotion of fear to emotion of anger, especially for the ladies. The ladies, sometimes you get scared if there's this guy harassing you, there's this guy following you, especially in the mall. If he's a stalker, all you have to do is approach the security guard. Mr. Security Guard, I think he's a rapist. All you have to do is that. It's gonna embarrass the hell out of the guy, and it's gonna buy you time. So the security guard will investigate, and you can walk on and leave. And, he gets caught, okay? So you can do as simple as that. Or sometimes what I tell the girls, because especially we also train ladies in anti-rape. And most of the time they tell you hit the nose or kick the family jewels. It's not gonna work because when I was with the U.S. Embassy, I was helping the U.S. Marshals bring in fugitives. Sometimes we have female fugitives. And there is no way she can kick me because I'm already in my mind, it's already, my mindset is I know she's gonna kick me, so I'm always prepared for that. Just like the bad guys. they know you're gonna hit them either on the nose or you're gonna hit them on the balls or on the family jewels. But you have on your person always something that you can use against them. Ladies, would you know what that is?
It's always on your person.
The thumbs. The thumb inside the eyes? No way. 10 out of 10, your thumb is gonna win over those eyes. Okay? Imagine there is no two things that can occupy the same space. So if you put this inside the eyeball socket, what comes out?
The eyeballs.
The eyeballs, right?
And the eyes doesn't have muscle.
You only have one chance to use it, if ever. And try to make sure that, he thinks you're not going to fight, then you just give it to him. But never, girls, never say, don't come nose, I'm going to use this to you, on you. Don't do that. You're going to lose that edge, okay? So you have to have that. That's one. I just wanted to throw that to you. It's not part of this, but just in case it happens, at least you have something to bring with you home. So I've complied with Richard with what you girls can bring home with you, okay? Anyway, going back, all problems have solutions, and most of them at times require simple common sense, okay? 80% survival, okay? Survival is 80% mental and 20% skill. You're here because of the 20%. But even if you don't have the skill, if you have that willingness to live, you're gonna think of something, okay? Have the will to survive, lastly, okay? Okay, survival mindset. Build the mental foundation, okay? What does that mean? You need to change the way we think. Sorry. Look at our assumptions about the world. We have to change the way we think about the world, okay? Because more often than not, we're all brought up, the way we were brought up is, educated, okay? So the way we think is different from that criminal out there who hasn't eaten, who doesn't have money to buy food, doesn't have money to buy medicines, okay? So they think differently. Their animalistic instincts come out because they need to survive. Ours is different. So sometimes when we're faced with somebody, a criminal, we tend to negotiate. We tend to talk our way out. It's not gonna work because they have a different mindset. You have a cell phone. The cell phone to them is a means to eat. What is in between the cell phone and their means to eat? It's you. If you don't give it, what do? They negate that obstacle, and that is you. Okay, so what happens? They stab you, they shoot you. And more often than not anymore, at this point in time, they don't even ask. They just do it. Because sometimes, especially if it's a guy or it's a girl that they don't know, she might have a concealed firearm or she might be trained. It might be more of a problem. So sometimes they just shoot, get the money or get the thing, and just leave. I've got several videos wherein money changers, the people who work at the money exchange, the Forex, they're tasked to bring money on a motorcycle. When the bad guys know about them, all they have to do is they don't even stick the gun. They just shoot him the head at the back and get the money and leave. Simple, no trouble. They don't get identified. There's no chance that the guy would fight back, and they bring home what they need. Okay, that's how simple it is, and that's what's happening right now. Okay, so you have to look at how the world is. Have you seen? There were pictures, I just wasn't able to put it. A rapist who raped a 7-year-old, after raping the 7-year-old, stabbed her about 21 times and just threw her in the dumpster. Can you imagine? And when they caught him, he was still smiling. Can you imagine the kind of person he is? It's the kind of mentality. And most of us won't be able to fathom that, but it is how it is. Okay, so you have to really change the way you think of the world. So if you have a chance, I'm not saying you should do it, but a judgment call. If you have a chance, you have a chance to take him out because he's gonna kill you, do it, because it's either yourself or his life, okay? Basically, and sometimes we hesitate because we're the educated one, we're not animals, but sometimes we have to bring that out to protect ourselves, okay? Decide what actions we will take in the reaction to that world, okay? And make peace with our decision. If in the process you get to kill the guy, don't in the end have that guilty feeling and start drinking and start ruining your life because I took another one's life. No, what you want to think is you were able to save another life, your life or your family's life, in exchange for that. That's how you should think, okay? Develop a mental trigger, especially for the girls. Sometimes you go to the bar and there's this guy who tries to be casual with you, tries to first touch you, then puts an arm around you, you have to draw that mental trigger when you should slap him and say, stop it, don't do it. Because if you don't do anything, if you don't react or you don't say anything, what does the guy think? It's okay. Okay? You don't want that. So you girls should draw a mental trigger, even with the guys. If there's a situation where you know it's gonna escalate, draw that mental trigger wherein you have to intervene. If you can avoid, always avoid. In fact, I was telling earlier somebody about, earlier I was being interviewed outside. They were saying, what if the road rages? Just like this morning, on the way here, somebody cut me. I have a gun I always carry a gun beside me. But what for? You know I can kill the guy, I'm trained, I can shoot him. But is that the end of the problem? No, that's the start of the problem. The moment you pull the trigger, everything will come back to you. If the guy has a brother who's as crazy as him, then he's gonna hunt you down, he's gonna hunt down your family. It's not worth it. Let him go. As long as you know what you can do, as long as he doesn't get down and attempts to kill you, it's okay, let him go. Because most of the time, the road rages start because it's an ego thing, okay? Somebody feels that he's been stepped on, I have to be more manly. No, just walk away. That's the best way, okay? But again, you have to draw that mental trigger. Up to what point, okay? Because if you know he's gonna take advantage of you, worse, it's gonna cost you your life or the safety of your family, then you have to take action, okay? Decide in advance what you are willing to do to survive. Are you willing to just slap the guy to survive? Or in some cases, extreme cases, are you willing to kill to survive? Okay, I'm not promoting it. I'm just saying there might be that situation that would present itself. Somebody's raping you already and you grab the knife. Are you going to stab him in the neck just to stop him or not? Let him go through with what he's doing to you. Okay? The decision is yours. Threat situations occur extremely fast. Preloaded plans reduce our decision-making time and speed up our ability to react. That's why I say play that what-if mind games, have a plan. Every time you go, example, you go to the mall, okay, have a plan. Now for parents, I'm just throwing in things that come into my mind, okay? If you bring your kids to the mall, be sure you're bringing them because you want them to enjoy and not because you want to go shopping. Because the moment you take off your attention on that little boy or little girl and he walks away, that's the end of the story. It just takes one mistake, okay? So if you're just going to go shopping, don't bring your kids, leave them home. But if you have the time and you're gonna just watch over them, then watch over them and let them enjoy, okay? In high-stress encounters, you will not have time to decide. You will only have the time to act. That's what I've been saying. Because if you have just like earlier, Troy and Matt preloaded us already on the fact that if something happens, those are the exits. Okay, so we don't act. We don't have the time to act. It's instinct. Since they briefed us already, we already know what to do. So it pays a lot. Okay, that's why wherever you go, always plan. Okay. Remember, understanding the criminal threat in your area is valuable, but does you no good unless you adjust your personal security profile accordingly. You know, there is that guy who's a snatcher at the corner sometimes, but you still go out carrying your Louis Vuitton to wait for a taxi cab. It's not gonna do you good, even if you know there's a bad guy there, because you're still giving an opportunity for him to take advantage of yourself. Okay. This can be simplified to 3 Ds: detect, diffuse, and defend. Okay? And lastly, if you have to fight your way out, as I said, if it's it should always be a last resort. It's not the first option. Always diffuse it and walk away if you can walk away. Okay? Now, my question is, did this person detect and avoid? Was his action justifiable and worth the repercussions thereafter? Do you remember that viral photo? The story here was, although the guy was correct, he's a Chinese guy actually. Before this was on EDSA. Before the flyover, the stupid cab driver cut him and was reckless. So he got pissed because he was with his dad who was old already. He ran after the car and cut him and he went down. When he went down, the cab driver was going to go down with a knife. So he saw the knife, he started kicking the door so the guy won't be able to go out. Then, while he was kicking it, the dad went down to intervene. That when he saw his dad, who was old, he got frantic. He ran back to the car and got his bag and pulled out his gun. Okay? And while that was all happening, they didn't know the guy in the bus was taking a video footage of him all throughout. And they were seeing this scenario already, wherein he was the one who was going down. He was the perpetrator. He was the bad guy. Unfortunately, whether he was right or wrong, where did it bring him? It just brought him to embarrassment. The PNP investigated him. It's a good thing. Well, for him, the gun wasn't licensed, so he claimed it was an airsoft gun. You know, so no charges were made against him. But then again, it was an embarrassment for the whole family because the whole family was mentioned on TV. They had to do a public apology, you know. And can you imagine that whole thing, okay? And if, for example, the guy approached and he shot the guy, for example, and the guy had a kid who was just as crazy, then the kid's gonna do a revenge on him or his family. It's not gonna end. It's just gonna escalate. So it didn't bring any good, okay? So this is what I'm saying. If you can diffuse it discreetly, walk away, rather than confrontation. Unless, again, I'm saying, you're sitting in the car, somebody caught you, and he still goes down and points a gun at you. You don't have any choice. And if you're carrying, you can engage. It's your life or his life. Then after that, you have to be sure you can live with that, okay? Now, we go to the 5 protection principles. Okay, I'm just wrapping it up, because it's about almost my time, okay? The 5 protection principles. First is be alert. When I say be alert, just be aware, not paranoid. There's a difference between paranoia and alertness. The moment you step out of the house, remember, be in that color yellow, okay? Be in yellow condition, okay? Number 2, be unpredictable if you can. Because criminals take patterns, okay? You go to mass every Sunday at 8 a.m. in that particular church. Somehow, somebody will notice that and might use it to their advantage, okay? If you can change, okay? Yeah, you say, I don't come to work early, I don't come to work on a regular time, I don't go to church on a regular time, but you go to your barber every last Thursday of the month. That is a pattern. And that is what they will, because you have to understand, criminals will study you. They pick out maybe 10, a dozen, okay, targets, and everybody is being checked. The easiest one will be done first, okay? So if you're hard and in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks they couldn't find your pattern, then they change and transfer to another. And that's what I want you to do. We want to harden you. If you're hard, then hopefully they'll find an easier target, okay? Then keep a low profile. When you go, if you have to go to the market, don't wear something that you go out when you go partying. Dress for market wear. Don't wear your Rolexes, don't wear your Louis Vuittons, don't wear your dangling earrings. For the ladies, have you seen what they call the pitas gang? The people that just grabs your earring? Can you imagine if they grab your earring? Where does the earring go? How does it get out of your ear? Okay? It breaks away, and that's gonna hurt. Okay? And they do that a lot. So you have to be careful. Okay? Keep a low profile. You're in the airplane. Okay? Your bags, keep it unsanitized. So sanitized, so nobody can know who you are or where you're going to. You know, try to avoid conversations with strangers. Because like for me, when we do investigations, all I have to tell Bong is, Bong, contact first the house. If for us, it's lucky the housemaid answers it, by the end of the conversation, Bong is already the boyfriend of the housemaid. That's how good Bong is when it comes to that, okay? No, but kidding aside, that's how we do things. And that's how the bad guys do things too. So you have to be careful, okay? Then communicate frequently. With the advent of cell phones, all you have to do is text. Before you leave, text your secretary, I'm on my way. So she knows it takes you about 20 minutes. You go more than that, an hour, then it could alert her already and call the authorities. Because maybe on the way they kidnap you and they haven't brought you yet to the safe house. Then if you inform the authorities, they might be able to put up a dragnet and stop you from being kidnapped. Okay? But if by the end of the day, that's the only time you're gonna react, well, it's too late. Okay? Then again, with the cell phones, at the end of the next of kin, I would recommend you put the word ICE, ICE, because it's standard protocol right now. When your phone is found in the crime scene or in an accident, the responder types ICE, which is in case of emergency. So they know who to contact after. Again, in the case of Bong, he's got like about 12 ISIS because he's got 12 girlfriends. Kidding aside, okay? So you can do that. It's just a tip, okay? And lastly, learn basic skills. That's why you're here. It's part of learning the basic skills, okay? Now, one important rule to always follow. See something, say something. Because the problem here, and like in the Western world, in the US and Europe, especially with the terrorism, they notice a bag, they tell the authorities. Here, you notice a bag, "Hey, don't get involved, my daughter, let's go," okay? Because that's how the culture is. We have to change that culture. If you notice something, if you notice the slightest thing that's not regular, inform. Because terrorism thrives on that. If terrorism thrives on people being selfish, not informing, then it's okay for them. But if we notice everything, we become the eyes of ears of the law. Because you have to understand, the police and the military can't cover the entire Philippines to protect us. We have to also protect ourselves. And this is one way. Okay? And lastly, if it doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't. Listen to your instincts. Okay? That said, any questions? Oh, later. All right. Okay. Thank you very much.